Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the MyFandom Cast right here on the MyFandom YouTube channel. And of course, across a bunch of platforms, whether it be my Facebook or some Facebook pages like MyFandom. Dave Sturchio here. And like I said, I always do. I always show up even after a catastrophic loss for some of my teams. So there's a lot to get into today. Obviously, we have week 3 of the NFL that came and went real quick. I feel like it just blew right by. We have 2 more games tonight, which is awful. I don't know who comes up with this stuff. And I understand, like, for somebody like me who has YouTube TV where you can like do the whole multi-stream thing. I still don't like it. It's like I still like Monday Night Football is Monday Night Football. It's just shouldn't be, hey, we're gonna put the A squad over here with Buck and Aikman, and then we got Manning cast, and then we got another game over here. It's like, and by the way, it's not like the games are just these, amazing games. I mean, Buffalo and Jacksonville should be okay, but the Bengals should be able to take care of Washington. But we saw what Washington do last week, so we never know what's going on with all that. But anyway, hope everybody enjoyed their weekend. I had myself a pretty good weekend. As far as a lot of stuff going on around here. And of course, thanks for checking in on the chat, whether it be on the MyFandom YouTube channel or Twitter or anything like that. So thank you guys for checking in. Appreciate you guys for watching. But yeah, a lot of things going on. The NFL, like I said, there's a lot to cover on the NFL. We'll get to that today, and we'll obviously also get to the MLB playoffs, which baseball, believe it or not, that season came and went. The playoffs are coming. The New York Yankees are in. The New York Mets are about to get in, you would think. They've been playing some good baseball, so we'll get into that as well. And, of course, later on, before we wrap up the show, we will pick those 2 games tonight. And I can't tell you what my record is. I can go back and watch. You can go back and watch on the MyFandom YouTube channel as far as my picks are concerned. But I am not a professional gambler. Please do not, take my advice as gospel as far as making picks are concerned. Leave that to the professionals. And I'm not talking about the people that are like, I hit my 9-leg parlay and they put $1 on it. And that's great. Good. You won $90 because something crazy happened where you hit look, parlays are the devil. They will always be the devil. Ask Kyle Kerms. He'll tell you that. Kyle is the Sauce and the Sauce Network. Go follow him. He's been a loyal listener and a loyal supporter of our Shop Sports brand, which is on the brink. So we'll see if that all, plays out the way we want it to play out over there at Shop Studios. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's get to the NFL Week 3 recap. There's a lot of stuff going on, man. A lot of stuff. And I think that, to be honest with you, it started with the Jets. As I told everybody to get on the Jets, they took care of business as they should. And I think that when you have an Aaron Rodgers, who I claimed, and this is my story, I'm sticking to it. Aaron Rodgers is one of the better, if not the best thrower of the football. Now, again, people are like, what about this guy? Like, no, throw like mechanics with the grip of the ball and rip it. He's the guy. He's number 1 for me, and it's my opinion. Again, people came in and said Warren Moon. People came in and said, who else was John Elway, Marino. Like, they're all amazing. I'm just saying, this guy flicks his wrist, and good things happen with the football, and that's what happened on Thursday night, where the Jets moved to 2-1 and now are in firm position to make some noise. I think 3 weeks in, again, small sample size, but I think they are primed to make a lot of noise in the AFC East and the AFC. So that's how the weekend started as far as sports are concerned. But then look, I had my, you could probably address it on so many other shows, but I have my professional wrestling second event promoted that in Staten Island. A lot of fun. That footage will be up very soon. Josh Chernoff and I are collaborating on that. But yeah, and then we saw some Rutgers action. That was cool. Rutgers getting the win over Virginia Tech. That's big. You'll find out more on the Jimmy Palumbo show as we break that down, that game down, leading into a huge game coming up on Friday night. But to the NFL, week number 3. I'll be brief on the Cowboys. There's not much to talk about other than the fact that it was the same song and dance, and the score doesn't dictate what it was. And everybody knows that. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that who were watching the game. If you look at the box score and you're, just catching up on the day and you're like, I wonder how the Cowboys did, and it's 28-25. You're like, ooh, they lost by a last-second field goal. Not the case. Not the case at all. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, all these guys on the Cowboys defense just can't seem to get it right. They can't seem to put themselves in a position to not get punched right in the mouth to start the games, which is kind of ridiculous considering the fact that like these guys are so vocal outside of the field. Specifically more Micah Parsons, who has his own podcast. He runs a network. Like he does a lot of media. And look, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, less this, more this. You know what I mean? Like, look, when like, for instance, if I have a day off, right, of my schedule, I can do whatever I want, right? And I shouldn't be criticized for that. Like I shouldn't be like, oh well, my something would have went differently had I just focused in on the game on my day off. Like, yeah, I get it. Like we're not all Gary V. We all can't just fucking go absolutely batshit crazy when it comes to business. He likes to be entertainment. He likes to be a source of the media. So rock on, Micah. But the problem is, the last couple games, obviously the one we got completely sparked by the Saints. And then this past week, I mean, dude, you can't, there's no excuse for it other than the fact that they just weren't prepared or they just don't have the personnel. We think Micah Parsons is this unicorn of a player. I still think he's a great pass rusher. I really do. I think he's one of the better ones in the league. But now you're starting to see some absent games, right? If you're in school and they call your name, present, right? Micah Parsons is probably the one just like kind of slipping back into, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to show his face on these big games. And again, it's not to discredit his talent level. I just think that the Cowboys defense is just getting worked right now. Right. And again, you want to give credit to the offense and Dak Prescott for rallying the troops in the last 8 minutes of the game. Sure, that's fun. It actually makes it worse for Cowboys fans, to be honest. I would 1000% rather that score been 28-6 and we get embarrassed at home again, right? Instead of this whole like, here come the Cowboys, and then they, oh, by the way, oh, here comes an onside kick. They never recover that. Boom, they recover that, right? So it's like all this stuff is it's beneficial to watch, right? As a fan of the team, but that's not the case, and it's not exactly what we saw. The Cowboys defense was absolutely throttled again via the run. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and and I think Lamar had like 13 pass attempts. I don't have the stats in front of me, but like you don't have to at all. Which is just ridiculous. It really is. So more on the Cowboys game, tomorrow on the Jersey Boys podcast. You can check that out. Myself, Brett Ernst, Keith Ernst will go over all of the happenings of the Dallas Cowboys. But enough about the Cowboys right now. I'm not about to throw all this show away on Cowboys talk. There was a bunch of other big things that happened in the NFL. We could start on the local front. I talked about the Jets before. Got to talk about the Giants, right? The Giants went into Cleveland, the dog pound, right? The Giants were a hopeless team going in. But I think there might be another hopeless team in the NFL, more hopeless than the Giants, and that's the Cleveland Browns, right? And if I had to make a prediction right now, if this season goes off the rails for the Browns, who got a win last week, now they're sitting at 1-2. And again, 1-2 is not the season's over. If it was, then I'd be really concerned because that's what the Cowboys are. But I think that they have a chance to have a little bit of a fire sale at the deadline, try to recoup some picks and continue to build. But again, trade deadline's not for many weeks. But I'd like Amari Cooper back to the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to search for another receiver, so we'll see. But the Giants, you can't take anything away from that, man. The defense played good. They beat the shit out of Deshaun Watson. There's got to be something wrong with that offensive line because the Cowboys beat the shit out of Deshaun Watson. So, you look at the offensive line and you're only as good as your front. You really are. I mean, it's football. That's the only way that these operations move in the right direction is if your offensive line is any good. And your defensive line, right? You need to push up front both ways. And when you look at the Giants, they got the push up front. They made Deshaun Watson very uncomfortable in the pocket. He didn't do anything. He did not do a damn thing. And the Giants took advantage. I will say, I mean, look, you have to call it how you see it. I understand I'm a Cowboys fan and everybody knows that, but I have to call it how I see it. And what I see is I see a Malik Neighbors being a friggin' problem for the NFC, for the NFL. But a big win by the Giants. Malik Neighbors goes off. He's, and now you have a showdown on Thursday night, the Cowboys and the Giants in JetLife Stadium. I'll continue to say that because that's what I feel like saying. But when I look at that game, it's no longer a laugher. The Cowboys have owned the Giants both ways, right? I don't think the Giants have beaten the Cowboys since, like, I don't know. It feels like 2016, Dak's rookie year, maybe. And that's the truth. Like, we've been walking out of there with a lot of dubs, right? And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I was even at the crazy Cole Beasley catch game where 1 knee equals 2 feet, where everybody was kind of leaving already, but the Cowboys won that game. But listen, Giants are 1-2. If they think they have what they have in the running game, Singletary played well. Daniel Jones didn't play bad, right? I know a lot of people are on Daniel Jones's ass, but again, you probably look at this and say, wow, if Malik Neighbors had, and name the next quarterback, he might be pretty damn even better than what he's shown already. But look, it's still early, so we'll see. The Colts and the Bears. Look, I have a problem now with one of my early projections about a man named Anthony Richardson. Now, this was a battle of Anthony Richardson versus Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams obviously being a rookie. He's going through his woes. That offensive line is so bad. They're going to get the kid killed. But what I will say is that Anthony Richardson didn't do himself any favors. He got himself a win, and the Colts are 1-2. It's their first win of the year. But man, oh man, it's tough sledding. He's making some bad throws. NFL caliber throws. You have to just clean that up and have to do it fast, because the Colts could be a threat in the AFC South if they just get their shit together with quarterback play. Because Jonathan Taylor, he's going to be good. He's going to run the rock hard each and every week they're out there. But Richardson's got to clean it up. He absolutely has to clean it up. Some of the picks that he threw yesterday were like high school level, right? It's just like not even looking off people, just locking on the one guy, waiting, and then throwing it, trying to thread the needle. It's just, he's not that guy yet. So, and they have decent wide receivers. They do. But is what it is. The Colts get to 1-2. The Vikings. Now, I will say this, and I know Coach is in here. I think he's still in here watching. The Vikings are now 3-0. Last week, I said it wasn't going to last, right? And I was like, nope, not going to happen, right? And when you bring on a Texans team on the road, look, Texans got to come in there and play ball, and Texans have been touted to be pretty good, and somebody's had to go, right? Both teams came in 2-1. 2-0. And I look at this team and I say, well, you know what? Like, you got to give it up for Sam Darnold, journeyman Sam Darnold. And you look at the Vikings team and you think to yourself, what do we got to do to stay upright or to stay in games with a JJ McCarthy, who you thought was going to be your guy into this season, and it just doesn't work out for him, right? And it doesn't, right? So all of a sudden you got Sam Darnold and you're like, oh, man, all right, lost season. We'll figure it out, right? It's proven that Justin Jefferson has been confirmed that he is quarterback proof. Don't matter who's throwing him the rock. That guy's going to get open. He's going to make great plays, and he's a great running back, a great receiver. Speaking of running back, I almost called it a lateral move when they moved on from Dalvin Cook, and then they couldn't really figure it out. It was like an Alexander Madison type deal going forward. And they're like, all right, who are we going to bring it? You bring in an Aaron Jones who is familiar with the conference, definitely familiar with the division. Aaron Jones is playing some good ball too early, right? And so, look, the Vikings are 3-0. Your record is what you say you are. You are what your record say you is, right? And that made no sense. That was terrible English. But I will say the Vikings are 3-0. Let's see if they can keep the train rolling, as Coach C comes in and says, right? Like, keep the train rolling. All right, we'll see what happens. Game that really threw me off and threw me for a loop in my mental headspace was the Eagles and the Saints. The Saints, coming off a thrashing of the Cowboys, can't get it going at home, which was like mind-numbing, right? Like, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was their home opener. I don't know if they put up that big number at home, and they might have in week 1, I forget. But they are just they stalled out. It's like their mojo ran out. The Eagles played great defense. When you let up just 12 points, that's a great defensive game. And we say it a lot on the Jimmy Palumbo show, but Saquon Barkley pads his stats with one big run every week, right? If he goes for 90 yards or 100 yards, 60 of it typically comes on a big run, right? So it's like, that's cool. You look at the stat line, you're like, oh, wow, 6 carries for 100. One of them was 65 yards or something like that. It's always the case with Saquon. He redeemed himself after a bad drop in week number 2 in a loss against the Falcons. But listen, Eagles are 2-1. They're now sitting in first place by themselves. until we see what happens with Washington tonight, but they can be chilling there in first place by themselves going into next week. What do I think about the Saints? No, I mean, they throttled two teams, and one of them being the Panthers, one of them being Dallas, and maybe they throttled bad teams, and it's sad to say because I don't really want to admit to that, but maybe the Cowboys just aren't as good as what I wanted them to be, right? And that's, unfortunately, it's fair, and it's not accurate, right? So we'll see how that goes. Rolling on, slugfest over there in in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the craziest 3-0 team of the league right now because I feel like they don't have a quarterback, and Justin Fields has won 3 games. Now, how do you go to Russ? How do you go to Russ now? Like, you just don't. Unless the wheels fall off and you go to 3-4 and you lose the next 4 games, then you can make an adjustment. But Russell Wilson will be eating bench for a little while. As long as Justin Fields is winning football games, that's what it's going to be. To see the Chargers lose, Justin Herbert goes down. He was iffy coming in. And the fact that, he came in and what's his face? Tyler Heineke, right? I call him Heineke. I don't care. Could be Heineke. Doesn't matter. Heineken, same thing. Good drink. Let's go. But yeah, he came in and did what he could, but the Steelers did enough, and their running attack is good, and their passing attack left to be desired. Pickens had himself a decent day. I have him in fantasy. That's the only reason why I know that off the top of my head, but it is what it is. Another big upset in the NFL was the Denver Broncos taking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 26-7. That was an upset in my mind. The Broncos, Bo Nix doing his thing, running and throwing. Got a little Tebow-esque to him. Probably better as a quarterback than Tebow, but just a dual threat, larger dude. It's just crazy because the Buccaneers coming in 2-0, they're flying high. You would think that they're going to make some noise in the NFC, and then they drop an AFC game, which again, if you're a crazy like stat guy, and if you're an NFL guy, that the losses to the other conference is like the 58th tiebreaker and shit. So you can lose these games. If you're going to lose any games, lose them to the opposite conference. Everybody knows that, but it's alarming, right? I mean, I think the one touchdown went to Chris Godwin, which is a super reliable dude, and Baker Mayfield just, couldn't get it done. So kudos to the Broncos for getting that done. Apparently, Jordan Love is a system quarterback, right? Because now the Packers don't need him to win games, right? Jordan Love goes down week 1. They lose that game in Brazil to Philly. Then they're like, oh, by the way, we signed or traded for Malik Willis. Basically, the Titans were like looking for anything at that point to just dump him, and they did. And now he's on this revenge tour, right? Like he is in his absolute bag, because you got to give it up for Coach LaFleur too, because he's actually playing to his strengths. He knows he can't win games with him dropping back 35 times, right? So let's run the rock. And they've had a great running game with A.J. Dillon. They get another big win over a bad Titans team. Will Levis is just, I don't know. Every time I see Will Levis out there, I just think he's clueless. He's making some bad throws. It is what it is for the Titans, but the Titans have now found themselves in a nasty 0-3 hole. They already committed to him for the next week as far as starting there, but your season can get away from you with an 0-4 start. So the Titans are all of a sudden, and we're not even out of September yet. And they're finding themselves in must-win games because their season can get completely lost and off the rails. Another massive, massive upset, but I kind of felt it going in, which is why I didn't pick up the Raiders defense in fantasy football. When you have the Panthers coming in there 0-2 and they just look like complete garbage, then all of a sudden you're like, all right, look, Bryce, let's sit you down for a second. Let's get the red rifle in there, the red rocket, whatever you want to call this guy, right? Let's get Andy Dalton in there and see what he can do. My man puts up 36 points against the Raiders, and it just didn't make much sense to me. I didn't know what I was watching. The Raiders fall to 1-2, but that defense wasn't there, right? I had, friends of mine just kind of jumping off the bandwagon. They just don't want to be Raiders fans anymore. Look, again, there's not much you could say about Sam Darnold. That's both the same guy. Both red-headed ginger quarterbacks. Andy Dalton did a very good job. And you knew it was going to provide a little bit of a spark. That's what I knew. I knew there was going to be a little bit of a spark. I didn't know they were going to put up 36. It is what it is. But yeah, Raiders get it done. The Dolphins. Well, this might be the same song and dance going forward as long as Tua is out of this game. Skylar Thompson ain't it. Listen, there are backup quarterbacks out there that will save your season quick. I'm talking about Tyrod Taylor. Now, again, that would be trading within division. What Trey Lance could do, I don't know, but hey, Miami, give us a call, right? Like, there are backup quarterbacks out there that are better than Skylar Thompson. Okay. Skylar Thompson couldn't get nothing going yesterday. Seattle now is also another quiet 3-0 team. They fall in my Pittsburgh range where it's just like, how the hell are they doing this right now? It's Geno Smith. Oh, look, Geno Smith is a very good quarterback. I'll put him he's a good quarterback. I don't want to say very good, but he's doing enough. And DK Metcalf is a freak, right? So that's where I'm at with the Seahawks. I don't buy into it yet. I mean, the 3-0 is 3-0. Again, you are what your record says you are. So that's big. It's big on their behalf. But I think the bigger concern is in Miami right now, where they will not win games if Tua is not their quarterback. So they got to make a move. And again, you don't want to hit the panic button. It's 1-2. I'm not, right. It's 1-2 for my teams and stuff, but you just don't want to put yourself in a hole this early when you know what's ahead of you. What's ahead of them are the Buffalo Bills, are the brand new resurgent New York Jets with an Aaron Rodgers led team. The Patriots are not, you don't walk all over them, right? But they're not that good. But it is what it is. I keep saying it is what it is because it really truly is what it is. The Lions moved to 2-1. They get a win over the Cardinals 20-13. Again, this is one of those gritty wins that you need to pull out early on. It's an NFC win. It's a big one. The Lions playing away from home is a big thing, right? I mean, that's to get a win on the road against a comparable team. Now, nobody really knows what the Cardinals are going to be yet, right? There's a lot of flash of good. Marvin Harrison Jr. is really coming into his own already. Him and Malik Neighbors have really, really impressed over the first 3 weeks of the year. But again, it all depends on who's throwing you the ball. And I've always looked at Kyler Murray as like a Baker Mayfield type. And when I say that, I mean mentally not strong, because if things don't go well, you see the spiral effect it has on a guy like Kyler Murray. That is why you won't win games when they're close, because if you make one mistake or a teammate makes a mistake, he gets boohoo on the sidelines and the whole thing just goes off the rails. And that's the truth. If you watch these guys, look, Kyler Murray can absolutely make the biggest and best plays out there. But when he doesn't make plays and when he does screw up a little bit, that is where you get into trouble, and you get into trouble fast. So that's what I feel about Kyler Murray. And that's kind of where I'm at with the Cardinals right now. It's all about, if this guy can stay level-headed, then we have ourselves, a quarterback that could play the game. But again, I don't foresee it happening as long as he's the quarterback of that team. Talked about the Ravens and the Cowboys already. 28-25, the Ravens get the win. A shocker. Look, the 49ers were up big in this game. You cannot blow that kind of lead against a team that is so beat up like the Rams. The Rams are down to like me playing receiver at this point. You know what I mean? Like, they lost Puka, they lost Kupp. What are they going to do? Who's going to fill in? Kyron Williams had himself a day. The running attack. This is crazy to see the San Francisco 49ers down like this. Again, very early. 1-2 is not the end of a season. However, now you're looking up at Seattle down 2 games already. You're down 2 games, and it's not even the end of September. These are big. And look, they'll battle, right? They'll battle throughout the end. Brock Purdy, he was starting to answer some questions early on. I was like, oh, dude, no Debo, no Kittle. You barely have Ayuk in camp, right? But he's making it all work. It's going to be great. So now this is giving him extra credibility, right? But I mean, you cannot blow this game specifically in your own division. It's a bad loss for the 49ers. The 49ers are now 1-2, which is like crazy to me to think about. But again, a lot of injuries on that team. Not to panic. The NFC seems to be, again, floating with some rising teams like the Vikings and the Seahawks. All of a sudden they're 3-0, and you're like, yeah, but that's gonna work itself out, right? Like, you look at it, I don't buy into it so much, but you never know. You truly never know. I don't know, man. Niners got to do something. The Niners absolutely have to do something. And then, of course, last night, I can't. It's a great game. Don't get me wrong. 22-17, the Chiefs beat the Falcons. But, man, it's like, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist by any stretch, but I understand what the NFL does want, right? I always say that about, like, pretty much all sports, baseball, same thing. NBA, not so much because there's a star on every team, really. But like baseball, if a small market team upsets a big market team and they find themselves in the World Series, the MLB is going to lose ratings. People are not going to tune in. So that's like when I see the Chiefs at 3-0 now, and two of those games, they won by a friggin' foot in week one. And then you watch them last night, there's an absolute blatant pass interference in the end zone on Kyle Pitts, not called, right? And then just nothing is, and then like you see some of the calls that go against Kansas City, and they're not game altering calls, but it's almost as if like, well, we've called like 6 on Atlanta, so we got to kind of even it up. So let's throw an illegal hands to the face in there. Let's throw a holding call. Like let's even it up a little bit when it comes to like who's got more penalties, right? But then the biggest opportunity that Kirk Cousins have, he finds a guy in the back of the end zone. The rule is simple. The rule is very simple, and I've seen it too much across the league already in 3 weeks of football. If you're a cornerback, you have to have your head turned around to play the ball, and you can't make contact. Not only did the Chiefs defender make contact, but they were kissing, right? They were in each other's face. How is that not pass interference? Like it's blatant. It's right there. And the worst part is the fucking back judge is standing there, right there. Like, how do you watched it happen in real time and don't give me that, well, sometimes in real time it doesn't really work because it's so fast. That wasn't fast. It wasn't a dart. It wasn't a bullet thrown by Cousins. He can't do that anymore, right? And I'm watching this game and develop, and I'm like, well, that's it. That's a ball game, right? That was their shot. It just, it's mind-numbing because even when Mahomes makes mistakes, which, by the way, Justin Simmons owns your ass, Patrick Mahomes. He's got 6 picks in his career against Patrick Mahomes by himself. He's the most of one man against another man. No other guy has more interceptions against another quarterback individually than Justin Simmons. Great pickup by the Falcons. The Falcons moving to 1-2. That's one of my teams that I think are going to be in the playoffs. I think they might win that division. But there's Kyle. We mentioned him earlier. Special shout out to the Cowboys defense to make sure he got the over. Well, I'm pretty sure you got the over with the Cowboys offense because the game was out of reach. The game stunk out loud. And all of a sudden here comes, a lot of people call him garbage time Dak, and there's a lot of stats to be thrown out there. But I don't consider it garbage time when the Ravens have blown leads left and right. The Ravens have blown a lot of leads in their time, even within the last couple of years, 10-point leads in the fourth quarter. They were up 28-6. It's not garbage. The first touchdown, sure. If this game would have ended 28-13 or whatever the hell after the first touchdown, then fine. That last touchdown came in garbage time. But it's not garbage time if they keep getting the ball back and the Cowboys get an onside kick. They drive down the field, score again. It's like, okay, this is a game now. Like, this is Dak getting down the field, making things happen. But I'm not talking about the Cowboys anymore. I feel like keeping my head. So I won't do that. So that's week number 3 in a nutshell. Again, got 2 games tonight. Yes, if you're a football savant and you crave the NFL, it's great. But for me, I'm just like, just put 1 game on. It's fine. Right? We don't need 2 games. It's, again, personal preference. I love football. Trust me. I watch every minute of every Cowboys preseason game. So people like that are sick, right? And they just love football. But you put I guess the matchups, if they were better, I would say, okay, let's go. Kyle, feel free to give some picks out while you're in here. Don't give them out. Listen, you got to join the Sauce Network to do that. He is our specialist over there at Chop. He's my specialist because a lot of the times when I'm looking for a way, and he said it on one of the shows last week. He said, Eagles win outright. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You're nuts. You're nuts. He called it on Tuesday of last week that the Eagles would win outright. Again, it wasn't special by any stretch, but he is actually, you know what? Kyle's giving you something for free. Don't need points. Jaguars outright tonight. He thinks the Jaguars are going to take that one. That's pretty, I don't want to say it's too bold, but the Jaguars are an absolute must-win scenario right now because they're coming in there and, whatchamacallit, they're coming in with an 0-2 record. To fall 0-3 with a team like that is very not good. Right? It's not good. Obviously 0-3 is a bad start, but when you're dealing with the Texans and the Colts, who should come around if Richardson starts playing a little better, and that division, the Titans are probably just going to be in the basement the rest of the year. But if you want to be in that division, you want to be in that race, you got to make some noise. And what better way to do it than to go into Buffalo tonight and win outright. So we'll see. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's get into a little bit of something different now. Huh? We got some baseball coming up. We got some baseball, playoff baseball, and I'm not going to get into the all the specifics of what's been happening as far as the baseball season. It's a long season, so people have to, they had to be patient, especially with teams like the Yankees and the Mets. When the Mets come in, look, when you come in with the roster the way you have it, there are high expectations, right? And the Yankees, for whatever reason, every year you think like, all right, if we don't win the World Series, it's a lost season. Like, you haven't won the World Series since 09, right? So that is the last time any of my teams won anything. So I look at this and I see, we got another comment coming in from YouTube. Cowboys winning only 5 games, Belichick and a top 10 pick. You know, it's funny. I made one comment yesterday about that. I said, so what do we draft for the top 10 pick? Defensive tackle or whatever Bill Belichick wants, right? So you see this kind of like the fans are kind of up in arms right now, and they're just like, forget it. We're not gonna stop a nosebleed. And that might be the case. Maybe Devin Singletary has himself a game, or Daniel Jones just goes out there and runs all over us. If that's the case, if something happens like that, if the Cowboys come in New Jersey, who have absolutely been their daddies at this point, if the Giants go in there at home and get a win over the Cowboys and the Cowboys fall to 1-3, it's over. But anyway, let's get some baseball talk in here real quick. Ultra Cowboy coming in saying Soto will be the difference maker. And look, Soto is one of those guys, and I've been saying this for a long time. Every time it's preferable when Soto does something special, which it's like every other game, really. But I said that you gotta just give him a blank check, right? I mean, like, I understand they pay out the ass for guys like Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge, and they're still paying for Stanton for whatever reason, right? So I know there's no salary cap, but the Yankees are in this mindset where they don't want to pay this luxury tax, and that's fine. Some teams don't give a shit. The Mets are one of those teams that really didn't give a shit about the luxury tax, and I'm not saying they have some massively heavy contracts, because they don't. They're not the Yankees of the contract world, right? The Yankees will give out fucking dollars and dollars and dollars, not care. But what I will say is, I'm just looking at the comments here. If we lose to the Giants, start fielding a trade for offers for D-Law and Martin. Nah, look, again, I don't want to jump topic to topic here, but those guys they're not going to be traded. Nobody's going to be traded, really. It feels very similar to the 2018 season. But we'll figure it out, right? We'll go forward from there. If you are watching on any other platform, try to jump on over to the MyFandom YouTube channel for the comments to show up. For whatever reason, if you're commenting on Facebook or Twitter, they might not be showing up, and I apologize for not addressing anybody. But back to some October baseball. The Yankees magic number is 1 to win the AL East. That will be big, right? You don't have to deal with the wild card bullshit, right? You can just coast and get into the next round in the ALDS and do your thing. There have been some glaring issues with this Yankee team, and if you're a Yankee fan with a pulse, you've seen them all, right? You've seen bad managerial decisions by Aaron Boone. You've seen them think that Clay Holmes was an all-star, right? Clay Holmes made the all-star team, so everybody's like, come on, man, you got to give him a break. He's an all-star. Yeah, fine. That basically means you had a good start to your season. Wonderful, right? But you got to continue that. He's made a season out of blowing saves. So my biggest concern with the Yankees going into the playoffs, like, yes, will Judge get his numbers? Will Soto hit? Yes. Will they steal some bags? Will we have some fun on the offensive side of things? Sure. But that pitching staff, it's not sitting well with me. Like, Garrett Cole is one of the better pitchers in baseball, if not one of the top 3, right? And that's fine. And that's I'm not saying anything out of turn there, right? But it's after him is where we think, okay, well, now what? Like, Rodon, yeah. Has he picked it up from last year with all the injuries and everything like that? Sure, right? They already put Nestor in the pen. Who knows what they do with Heel, right? You don't know what they're going to do with him. Rumors say he might start off in the pen, or is he a third starter? They got some decisions to make, right? And they bring up the Martian a couple weeks, I want to say a week or so too late, which is fine. They're still going to wind up in the same position that they were heading in, right? Because if they could just win the division, they get to the ALDS, they'll host some games, they'll have home field advantage at least in that series, right? So I think I think that there's been too many concerns within the pitching staff, specifically even the bullpen, Just like running backs in the NFL, I don't like this whole close by committee thing. Like, let's see who works out. Like, you got to stick with your guy. Unfortunately, you have to stick with your guy. And I think the Yankees fans have been so spoiled throughout their entire lives that they had Mariano Rivera, right? The guy was aces, automatic save, like bring him in, can't hit the cutter, boom, it's over. Mariano, great, right? But now you're trying to duplicate Mariano. You're trying to make whoever is closing the next Mariano, and those are just very unrealistic expectations. They are, right? So, we got another comment coming in saying Matt Blake has been a savior. He develops relievers, I believe. Yeah. So I'm thinking he'll goes to the pen too, specifically because of his youth and lack of experience. Again, I'm not saying that he deserves to be in the pen, and that's not a knock. When you're in the pen in the playoffs, that just goes to show you that, like, when we need somebody, there has to be somebody to rely on. And in the playoffs, it's a whole nother ball game because you're really only using 3 starters technically, right? Game 1, game 2, game 3. And then game 4 will be your game 1 starter. I can't foresee anybody else getting in a rotation, not now at least, going into the playoffs. So I'm very excited, but also very, I'm walking around very, very gingerly right now with the Yankees getting into the playoffs. Tonight is a big one. Let's get that division win and moving on from there. All right. I will say this. I don't like the fact, and this goes across the league for specifically MLB. And I understand that, they've expanded the playoffs a little bit. So if you expect to make the playoffs and then you clinch a playoff berth, do we really need champagne and shit in the locker room? Do we really need that? If you win the division, sure, have a sip. Have a sip. Yeah, good job. Division. Pop bottles when you win the World Series, or at least win the AL, right? If you win the AL, pop bottles, you're in the World Series, you're in the dance, here we go, right? But the whole pop bottles and goggles in the locker room and shit after clinching a playoff berth, no matter what team it is, it's nauseating to me, and I just think it's very juvenile and stupid. But the Yankees are a mystery. I'm not about to sit here and tell you that I know everything there is to know about the Mets. I know a lot of people that love the Mets, my father being one of them. I know a lot of people that cover the Mets. My boy Matt Ibanez. You can check Till Mets Do Us Part. That's probably one of the best Mets podcasts out there that's not linked to SNY, because my boy Joe DeMeo works for SNY and he does a great job with the Mets podcast. But when I look at the Mets, and I got plenty of friends that are Mets fans as well, I look at the Mets as the more fun team in New York right now. They are. I mean, it's just the Yankees are supposed to be all business. That's the Yankees. That's the way they're bred. And of course, yeah, in the beginning, you got Verdugo, like, we got some dogs, right? And everybody's barking and shit. And I'm like, that's fun, but it didn't feel like the Yankees. Then you bring in Jazz Chisholm, and he's this extra spark. And fine, fine. I get it. But the Mets are the more exciting team because of the expectations of the Mets. A lot of Mets fans came into this year saying like hey, you never know, right? Like you never, we'll see what we can do, right? And in the beginning, it seemed like a little gloomy, right? But now we're in the final week of the season, and the Mets they're making noise and fun noise, right? Like they got guys that will play for each other. I really do enjoy seeing the Mets succeed because, again, my father, plenty of friends are pumped that both of the New York teams could possibly be in the playoffs. They have a little bit of a harder road going in because they got the Braves coming up, and that's a massive series for them. And obviously, that's their ticket in, right? You take care of business this week, and you will be in the postseason. And I'm pumped for them. I really think they have a shot to make some noise because of the fact that their pen is relatively strong, right? And you still got guys that can hit the shit out of a baseball. So it's not, they're playing good baseball when it matters. You get hot at the right time in any sport. I don't care who you are. Look at the Green Bay Packers last year. Football, right? You get in, you beat up on Dallas, right? And you make some noise in the playoffs because you were the hotter team coming in, right? Baseball is the same way. You grit out these wins down the stretch and you make the playoffs in the postseason. You want to pop bottles for that and get excited because nobody expected you to do that. All right, again, take 2 sips. Just stick to. Don't go crazy. But I will say that the Mets and the Yankees being in the postseason together would be a lot of fun. Rooting for, obviously, I'm a Yankee fan, but again, a lot of people out there that are Mets fans. I'm rooting. Listen, let's get a fucking Subway Series, man. Let's do it, right? Let's get on that train. Let's really rally. And again, there's never been a rivalry. There's never been a rivalry when it comes to the Yankees and the Mets. So for anybody to make a rivalry out of it, I feel like it's just a waste of time and breath because one, they play in completely different leagues, right? So that doesn't matter, right? If you want to do a Subway Series every year, sure, bragging rights, fine. But if you're out there and you're like, I'm a Yankees fan and I hate the Mets, how? What did they ever do to you? We beat them in the World Series in 2000. Like, what did they ever do to us to make you hate the Mets? I'll never understand that rhetoric. I'll never understand that. I just won't. And the Mets fans, they get excited about small victories, right? And they get excited about these little minuscule things, but those minuscule things are bigger to them because they don't have 27 fucking rings, right? Like the Yankees have been around since fucking 1800s, it feels like. So that's why you have all these rings and these championships. They've been a dominant franchise. They've won, 96, 98, 99, 2000, right? So they've been there. They've won in 2009. The last time the Mets sniffed this, right? I believe it was 2015 with the Royals, if I'm not mistaken. But then before that, you got the Carlos Beltran bat on the shoulder shit, right? So let the Mets fans get excited. Let them make some noise in the NL and get to the World Series. Get to the World Series. And then you have yourself, then you want to say, I hate the Mets because they're playing the Yankees in the World Series. By all means, do it. But for you to just hate the Mets just because they're not the Yankees, that's like, I have personal reasons why I hate the Brooklyn Nets, right? Because they didn't hire me to work for them once upon a time back in like 2018. And again, I'm a Knicks guy. So I will hate the Brooklyn Nets because of that little thing. But like for me, and they're in the same conference, right? The East. But again, the Nets have never been a post threat to the. I mean, but neither of the Knicks. The Knicks have just started to get good. So, like, yeah, will you hate the Brooklyn Nets? They're in the same division or say a same conference, well, same division and same conference. Yes, fine. Hate the Nets, fine, because that makes sense. But again, Rangers, Devils, same thing. But in baseball and in football, I will never understand the hatred for the crosstown team. I'm not calling them a crosstown rival because it's not a thing. It's not a thing, and I don't get it. So I'll digress with that one. But let's get to some Monday Night Football picks, shall we? There's two games, and very excited about just, again, the opportunity to watch some more football. Plus, you got the Yankees, you got the Mets. It's a good time to be a sports fan. By the way, if you're listening to this right now on the MyFandom YouTube channel, please, please, please download the MyFandom app if you are one of these people that go to a lot of games, because that is your place to be. That is where you can log all your games. You can say, you can put all your pictures, your videos. They're there forever. You never have to go searching for them on Facebook or Instagram. They're on your MyFandom page because that is the place to be for all sports fans. So do yourself a favor. Go download the app if you're on iOS. I know iOS 18 just came out. I got to update that or get a new phone, or I don't even know how this works anymore. It's like every time, I feel like as soon as they put a new thing out there for the iPhone, all other iPhones, older iPhones, start like fritzing out and people like, oh Jesus, I guess I got a new phone. That's the trick. That's the trick. They get you to do that. But anyway, tonight, a lot of cool shit happening. Go check it all out. As far as the Bengals and the Commanders, give me the Bengals, right? I mean, I don't really, again, the Commanders, they showed themselves a little bit last week with the Giants. Jaden Daniels is probably going to be a decent quarterback in this league. I think, again, with the wind blowing the wrong way, he can get hurt. He's very frail looking. Got to put some meat on the bones, but again, he can play the position very well. But I think Joe B and Chase and now Higgins is back tonight. I think they pose a bigger problem for a Dan Quinn-led team. Give me the Bengals in the first game, and obviously you saw, if you were here earlier, the sauce picked out the Jaguars outright. So I would, again, hard pressed for me to bet against Josh Allen. I think that dude makes plays even when he's not asked to. But the Jaguars are a desperate fucking team right now, man, and they need this so bad. I will pick the Bills to win the game. If you're a gambling man, you want to make some money, you can tail the sauce and pick the Jaguars. I'm going to pick the Bills and the Bengals. I'm going to pick them. Well, I'll pick the Bengals more defiantly, and then I'll tread lightly with the Bills, who have not been able to do too much, right? James Cook is a stud. The outsides worry me as far as the receiving core that they have over there. But again, we shall see. Show's gone too long for me because I got another show in a little bit. Big week coming up. Big week coming up because I got a couple recordings today, a couple recordings tomorrow. Wednesday, I'm going to AEW's Grand Slam as press with MyFandom. So if you're in the house at Arthur Ashe Stadium, we've been approved for press credentials. So me and Josh Chernoff will be there. Thursday night, obviously, I'll be in the house for the Cowboys and the Giants. Friday night, I'll be at Rutgers for the Rutgers game against Washington, which is really shaping up to be something special. Hopefully, the Rutgers are 3-0 going in. I believe Washington's 3-1, if I'm not mistaken. So we shall see. MLB is heating up at the right time. So that'll be fun. Saturday night, I'm back on commentary for Wrestle Pro, an independent wrestling promotion out of Rawway. That should be fun. And then before you know it, week 4 will be here. So on behalf of my fandom, and of course, everybody who's tuned in today, I want to thank everybody. Please be sure to share the video out. Like the video on YouTube. It helps us out. Share if you like the show, let me know. If you don't like the show, also let me know. And then go fuck yourself. No, I'm kidding. Not really. But so if you like it, please share it out. Let everybody know that there's another new show out there that covers all sports on Mondays. Mondays for now, and we'll see if I can expand this into another day of the week. We'll see. I know once upon a time I was able to do a daily show, but now I have 4 or 5 shows I got to work on. So it's a little tougher. But thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the football tonight. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Mets. Get yourself a fucking playoff berth, and we'll have some fun next week. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.